Hello, Eva, and welcome back.
Hi, Alina. Thank you for having me.
You are involved for um, many years now into the work with the body and the somatic approach to therapy and to um, body work in relationships and in how people can better know themselves through the relationship that they can build with the body, and how this awareness helps them know more about themselves.
Mhm.
um, as related to illnesses or somatic symptoms that show up in someone's attention, how would you um, what would be your opinion about what these symptoms could represent, and what would they signal to the person?
Mhm. Yeah. I guess when I answer the question, I just want to take a note that this moves through my own subjective experience and my own subjective, if you wish, clinical research and personal experience. So I'm not saying this is what it is, but from my own, um, yeah, personal experience and also professional sources that I took in to answer that question. I learned, for example, about Gabor Mate's work in 2012 through the book called When the Body Says No, which I found a very interesting title. And somehow I was very attracted to this book. I grabbed it in a moment where I was actually myself going through some symptoms, physical symptoms, that at the time I felt, God, I wish that was gone. I wish, those symptoms would go away. And I did not fully interpret them in a way that I would make interpretations today. Learning from my own experience, but also working with a lot of families, a lot of individuals, I realized when the body, I like to say the body talks. When the body talks to us through symptoms, it's a language for me that is saying, here's a red light, here's a signal, something is out of sync, something is out of balance. So I today regard every body symptom, may that be a broken bone, may that be an organ that's affected. I may have increasing panic attacks, or I may have, in my case, I had a very sensitive colon. So I didn't really digest things very well. So whenever the body, or I have a headache, I have a pain, I have a hurt in my neck, something is in my neck, I see the symptom of the body as a language, as a talking stick, if you wish, as somebody's talking to me to signal to me something in your life is off balance. And to me, the body language is a very direct language. It talks in a literal sense. If I have a headache, then and I can describe the headache as if um, it feels like a screw that is tightening from both ends. I may feel like there are two forces that are pushing in my head. So maybe I'm in a big thought process where there's a force from one side and the other side, and it feels and conflicting, and I feel myself in the middle of it. Or as if I had my colon symptoms, I really felt like I'm really not able to digest something proper. Or in certain symptoms, I felt, because in the symptoms, I just released everything. I felt like I'm almost in a painful way, but in a cleansing process, like whatever was coming into me and through me, I just had to let that go and completely empty myself out. Or something, there's a pain in my neck. I sometimes ask myself, who is a pain in my neck? Or what is a pain in my neck? Or who seemed to be a pain in my neck? I'm asking myself those questions to translate those literal languages.
So what I'm hearing for you, the symptoms are a messenger or are a means to get into the awareness of something that's actually beyond that symptom, and not just look at the symptom and treat the symptom as it is, like taking a pill for the headache or for any other symptom that we discover or we become aware of, because that's the normal way I think people react these days. They have a headache, they instantly get some medicine to treat that headache, uh, and forget about it once the effect of the medicine is full. And then if that ache, headache, or another kind of pain comes back, do that again. So what do you think that needs to change in people's minds in order to also change their approach to these symptoms?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think both solutions are valid solutions. One is basically treating the symptoms and saying, here's a pill that is helping me to get rid of my headache, but I'm treating the symptom, which is a valid method. I'm not saying don't go there, don't do it. And there are moments when I have a intense headache, and I may choose to take a pill for the headache, but I'm also curiously moving beyond. I think um, maybe that's part of my also my work as a family therapist, and working with family systems. I usually know whatever is presented on the outset, whatever is presented here, visible, noticeable. Usually the solution is behind that. It's usually covered up in something way more interesting. So out of the detective stories of looking at different seeming problems and seeing that the solution was at a complete other end, I got curious in all areas about those detective stories. And through my own, I guess, personal journey, and having tried to treat colitis, which is an autoimmune disease, with a classic method, and taking pain medication, and usually you take cortisone and other methods that are treating the symptoms, but they're not looking at the source. And so the second valid pathway to me is, what is the source that is causing the symptom to grab my attention and say, listen up here, here's something as a messenger to let you know something in your life is out of sync, something is out of balance. And I usually see two areas. Specifically, I see maybe I'm in a conflict. A lot of times I see body symptoms as an area of conflict, of two polarities, pulling, pushing. And I also see and I think that's why the title of the book, When the Body Says No, is so valid and so helpful. It's a lot of times the body giving me a signal to basically create a boundary to the outside. I'm not available right now, when I don't have to my own self the permission to say no to other people. I can definitely say in my personal case, I'm a yes at all cost person. I say yes to everybody. I want to be available. I want to support. I want to help. I want to be friendly. I want to be liked. So I have a tendency to say yes, 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 yes. And I did not learn to listen to my body and say, now is a time where I need to retreat to myself and need to take care of myself. So the only times I was not available for others, if they asked me to do something for them or to help me to spend time with them, the only time I wasn't available was when I was in the symptoms. So it was my body's way of saying no to the outside, I'm not available. And it's an interesting way of creating a boundary to the outset. And so that's when the body says no, when the words are not able to, I guess the words, I can say no easily, but it's more what is stopping me from saying no to other people. Maybe it's I have a rule. It's not okay to let people down. If they ask me something, I can never say um, because I'm afraid that I may put them down. So it's more an inner process that is stopping me from using this very simple word no. And so I personally went on the very direct journey to investigate when are those moments where it's so difficult for me to say no, even though I may feel exhausted and really needing some time to take care of myself and needing maybe to go on a walk or needing to get some sleep or needing to maybe do some yoga or running or do some things that are nurturing me, my body, and feeling healthy and rejuvenated and practicing self-care. It was my solution to say no, I'm not available. And but then the downside of it, well, it was also not available to myself take care of myself. I needed other assistance. I needed other people to help me. And in the journey of considering through the work of Gabor Mate that maybe it's a signal of the body saying no, I realized that's true for me. And I learned to listen to the accumulating signals of my body saying, speaking to me. And then I could self-engineer and much easier say, sorry, but I really need a couple of hours to myself and do something to rebalance myself. I really want to go on a walk. So it's my journey to listen to myself a little bit better, find the right moment to say no to others, say yes to myself for that particular moment, and then do something that is a good self-care practice for me. In my case, it's running, walking in nature, doing yoga practice, sometimes just sitting and reading something that's very nurturing for me. Sometimes it's just rest or meditation.
Mm. It's interesting that you're saying that, and as I was listening to you, a story came to my mind of a very active person that had an accident and the leg was broken. And up until that time, the person said that they are too busy to take time for themselves. And when that happened, guess what? They had all the time for themselves.
Exactly.
So it was like an irony or a higher wisdom of the body that allowed for that time and attention to be directed where it needed the most, maybe.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with a respected colleague that we both know, and he's working with pain patients, people with chronic pain. He works in the hypnosystemic field, and he had this really interesting question. She was coming in with chronic pain from rheumatoid arthritis, and she also had cruciating pain in her head, headaches. And she was somebody working in the helping field. She was taking care of other people, meaning she was a caretaker in the health field, and her whole identity was around I'm helping other people, and also her work was around like really physically being active. She needed to flip people over and help them to come up. And so it was a very physical work as well. And at all costs, she would continue to do her work. Vacation was not an option. And then her pain was increasing, and they were working together. And he was asking her the question, if your body could speak to you, if you give your body a voice, if you allow your body to talk to you and send a message of what your body would like to let you know, what's the message it wants to send across with the headache and all the other pain? What would your body like to do if it had total freedom? And let the body answer that question to you. And so they're just kind of opening a space, opening to hold this question with curiosity, with openness, with new eyes, with new glasses on. And then she was also she was actually in the conversation talking about all these patients she was taking care of and that were ill. And so he's also asking the question, what would your body tell you about being able to call in sick? Would your body maybe like that or not? And somehow there was, I think it was also timing, but somehow there was a shift in her mindset and her thinking about opening the space to have her body talk to her and to listen to what the message is, but also this new idea. Do you think your body would call in sick or call in for a vacation? And she actually allowed for the first time to call in sick over a shift of the weekend. And as she did that first permission ever, I call in sick, listening to the message, her symptoms started to, from a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being maximum, and the pain scale, they came down. And so they started to evaluate that. Isn't that interesting? As you allow yourself to do something that you haven't given your permission before, and give your body, because the body's answer was, I need to relax. I need to take care of myself. I need some space. That was the answer from the body to her. And for the first time, she was listening. And so they were following that road to have the body talk and listen to whatever the signals and messages were. And then she was taking a position of listening to the inside rather than the outside. And over a period of time, her symptoms decreased. And he said he's just been telling me that her she's been not completely pain-free, but from a very high on the scale, they're dramatically dropped. And I find that really interesting. So if we allow to listen to the body that's speaking to us and receiving some answers, there may be some really different answers to what the traditional medical approaches in treating the symptom itself. Because we're basically saying the symptoms doesn't have a value, we're trying to delete it. But I am saying, I'm proposing the symptom as a signal, it's a message that's trying to talk to you. Are you willing to listen? The body talks. The body has wisdom. The body has its own language. Are you curious to listen to that language? And then open your mind to it.
That's interesting, as so many people, and especially people that were for longer periods of time involved in sports and in performance, they were trained that they can control their bodies, and the mind and the power of the will is the one that is responsible for how the body feels.
Yeah.
and the body's performance, and how much they can push themselves to get better and better, faster and faster. um, and that's very much different from listening to the body and looking at things from a very different approach. um, Still, where do you think that these two approaches could meet?
I totally see a bridge between those two approaches. I think sometimes it's very valuable to treat the symptom itself to get some first relief from the pain. I'm not against if I have a if I have a cut, if I have an open wound, to to create to get the right cream to help my body to treat the symptom itself. But I'm always curious to look into when did this little accident happen, what was going on in my life, or what is going on in my life right now. And when I have the symptom, how am I restricted in my free movement right now? For example, I had a cut on my foot from the toe to the very end. Interesting enough, I was on a little trip and I was jumping into the ocean and I cut it open all the way from a shell. And I mean, that was like almost like a really sharp knife. And I could observe myself noticing that at the very beginning, because I was on a vacation trip, that the symptom, I wanted that to go away. And I was just cleaning it, but not very. But my attitude was, go away, go away. My friend wanted to go to the hospital with me. She's like, oh, that looks really nasty. It's really cut open. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to waste any time. And I could feel like the way I was walking on my foot was just not a very nice way. It was almost like go away, let me walk. And I was ignoring it, but it was in pain. The foot was in pain. The funny thing started to happen. All of a sudden, my mind shifted where I said, okay, I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to clean my foot. And then I got some cream out to help it. But then I also started to, I don't know, gently touch my foot and say, oh, I'm so sorry. I hurt you. And you're really slowing me down now. I guess I was running, and it's true. I was in a period of my life where I was running a lot. I was running from one course to the next course, and there was a lot of busyness in my life. So practically, I was running through my life. This time, my foot said, "Nope, slow down. You can't be as fast." And as soon as I started to, interesting enough, to have this entertaining conversation with my foot, saying, yeah, you're really slowing me down, and I'm sorry I hurt you. And that wasn't very nice. I didn't really pay good attention to you, and I really want to pay attention more to you. I mean, I have a friend who can prove it. We were laughing about it, saying like, oh my God, that looked like a miracle cure from an open wound within a very short period of time after this conversation, after I kind of touched my foot with love and tender care, the cut started to close. And it was a significant difference the next day. Mm-hmm. I could have also gone to the hospital and have it sewed down. I think that would have been a very good solution. I'm not saying don't go there, don't do it. But I was also curious myself to actually go through the process, and I didn't go to the hospital, and I thought, well, let's see how the body heals and see how that happens. But I think that's where we meet. You go to the hospital, you get the first treatment, you get things done to cure the symptom, and then what stops you from investigating further? What is the cause of this? And is there something out of balance in my life? Am I running around too much, or am I doing something that's not really good for me that I could listen to and make some adjustments so my body doesn't have to speak continuously to me?
Hmm. Or maybe not coming back over and over with the same message.
Exactly. And I guess the first time I learned this dramatically was I had in 2006, I had a massive burnout.
Hmm.
And tracking my burnout, I noticed that the body was the first talking to me, and I completely ignored the messages. The body was telling me I was tired. I had all sorts of different symptoms. And then I was, I was reacting in an emotional way, but the body continued to talk to me. It was going through very different phases until my whole system completely collapsed. But the body was the messenger that went all the way through continuously. And I know today that I completely ignored every message my body sent to me. Had I tuned in before to say what is the message behind that, I'm pretty sure that I would have been able to readjust
Hmm.
my life balance in a way between taking care of others and also including myself and self care at the same time, which wasn't the case. I was just there, and I didn't include myself into the community of care, which I do today better. I'm not great still; it's still a journey, but I'm much better also to include myself and the care and the self care.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a very complex language, but once we get to train it and practice it, it becomes maybe more accessible.
Yes, yes, and what I also like to notice is, as I said before, how is the symptom limiting me to what I'm usually doing? Is it slowing me down? Or like for example with the colon, I felt so much pain in my colon that I was contracted so much. It didn't allow me to be like open and expansive. I
Mm.
had to kind of like go inside and it was almost like in the baby position.
Mm.
I had to make myself a little bit smaller and cuddly for a moment in order to feel more taken care of. And so it's interesting also to look at what is the body not allowing me to do fully anymore, and is that exactly the opposite to what I usually do? Am
Mm.
I running around and doing a lot of active things, and all of a sudden the symptoms is forcing me to slow down? Now that's interesting. So we're on the continuum between active, 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 always active, and slowing down. So can I find through those two polarities the middle ground?
Mm.
Am I usually out in the open and like, moving openly like this, and the symptom is doing something like this? Then maybe it's sometimes important to let other people go, to let the world go and take care of yourself and really connect with yourself more.
So
It's usually, sorry,
mm.
it's usually the symptom that's demonstrating the opposite of what you usually do in your everyday's life on a habitual level. And that's how the body complements what's incomplete on the spectrum.
Yeah, I guess that's a very practical way of putting it, like showing you also the other ends of the spectrum. And okay, when once you are aware of both experiences, where do you go from there, or what do you choose for the future?
Yeah, and as the Chinese like to say, find the middle way. A little bit of this, a little bit of this, and then all the way through the middle, finding the middle way.
Interesting that the general idea is that in order to know the middle way, you first need to experience the ends of the spectrum, so the extremes.
I think so. I think sometimes we color outside of the lines, and then if we are aware of listening to what's happening and noticing that that's happening, it actually allows us to then renegotiate and find the perfect spectrum in the middle. I mean, for example, I know for myself, I'm a very active person. I like to, get a lot of things done. I love to be active. I love to be engaged with other people. That is part of my personhood. That's part of who I am. Um, but I learned that I put that sometimes out to a very extreme.
Mm.
I'm not completely changing. I'm not now an introvert person and taking all this time to myself. But I learned to just negotiate with myself a little bit better and not push it to the extreme until the body is screaming and yelling at me to say, change it. I'm just a little bit adjusting, meaning I may do a lot of work outside, teaching, and rather than changing my suitcase and going to the next destination, now I give myself a couple of days to integrate all of that, take some time to myself, and off I go again. So I'm still doing what I've done, but I'm doing it with a little bit more mindfulness to listen to the body feedback and then give myself some space to do what I need to do in order to rebalance and find that good middle ground that I passionately continue to do what I love doing, but do it in a way that is a little bit more honoring my body's needs as well.
Mm. And it's always valuable to know and to decode when the body says no or when the body says yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You have somatic markers, and the somatic markers are very clear, saying that's a yes and that's a no. And I highly recommend to listen when the body says yes. It's usually a warmth someplace, or it's usually where you feel your life energy and it's just, in a nice flow. And when the body says no, and it's usually the uncomfortable symptoms that are basically saying, this is a no, please stop. And listen to the phone call that we send to you because we have a message to tell you. The body talks. Are you willing to receive the phone call? Are you willing to listen? Because we would like to share some information with you. And I think at some point I chose to pick up the phone and say, okay, now I'm willing to listen. What do you got to say? And then I listened and I did follow the messages. I was um, willing to listen and then also follow through. And I think that's important too.
Mm. Yeah, it's a very complex topic, and maybe we can develop the subject in the future conversations that we have, and maybe at some point we'll get to the topic of how our immune system responds to our inner and outer factors that we engage with. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. That's even broadening the spectrum of what we talked about today. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.